Have you ever really stopped to think about the last web address you typed in? You probably ended it with a .com or maybe a .org and didn't give it a second thought. But those few letters after the dot, they're way more than just a technical thing. They're like a digital fingerprint, telling a whole story about who a site is for and whether you can trust it. So today, let's decode that digital address.
Right? We see them constantly, every single day, practically on autopilot. But what do they actually mean? And more importantly, how can picking just a few different letters completely change a brand's identity, a user's trust, and even where a company shows up in a Google search? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
So the official name for what we're talking about is a top-level domain, or TLD for short. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like your website's zip code. You know how a zip code tells you the general neighborhood? A TLD does the exact same thing. It gives you an instant clue about what kind of website you're visiting and helps bring some order to the massive, sprawling city that is the internet. Okay, let's start with the OGs, the classics. Before the internet became this wild, crazy place with endless options, there was a power trio that pretty much built the entire foundation: .com, .org, and .net. And even today, with literally hundreds of other choices, these three still dominate how we talk and think about the web.
Back in the day, the lines between these three were super clear. .com was for commercial stuff, businesses trying to make money. .org was for organizations, which pretty quickly became the go-to for nonprofits. And .net was for network services, like your internet service provider. Now, those rules have gotten way, way blurrier, but our gut feeling about them is still shaped by these original meanings.
And you can see just how much of a giant .com is. It accounts for almost half of all websites on the planet. That is just massive. Its power really comes from one simple thing: familiarity. I mean, think about it. Your phone's keyboard probably has a dedicated .com button. That little shortcut gives it a huge mental advantage. It's the default setting for the internet.
And this choice, especially between .com and .org, really gets to the core of branding online. Now, technically, could a for-profit company use a .org domain? Sure, but public perception is everything. We've been trained for decades to see .org and think nonprofit, charity, mission-driven. If a regular business uses it, it just feels off. It risks confusing people, or worse, making them think you're trying to pull a fast one.
Now, some TLDs have a level of authority that you just can't buy. Take .edu, for example. It actually used to be pretty easy to get one, but back in 2001, they locked it down. Now it is exclusively for accredited colleges and universities in the United States. And that restriction, that's what gives it so much power. When you see a .edu address, you know it's a legit academic source because they had to earn it. All right, so moving beyond those first few generic domains, there's this whole other universe, country code TLDs, or CCTLDs. And this brings up a huge strategic question for anyone building a website. Are you trying to be a global superstar, or are you aiming to be a local hero?
And that's really the fundamental difference. A generic TLD, like .com, sends a global signal. It screams, "I'm for everyone, everywhere." But a country code TLD, like .uk for the United Kingdom, immediately tells both people and search engines that you are focused on that specific place. And that simple choice can build a ton of local trust and give you a serious boost in local search results.
You see these all the time. .de for Germany, .ca for Canada, .jp for Japan, and the list goes on. What's interesting is that every country gets to set its own rules. So, for instance, to get a .ca domain, you usually need to have some kind of real connection to Canada. This local control is why some country codes feel more exclusive and others are just open to anybody.
And just when you thought you had it all figured out, it can get even more specific. A lot of countries basically copy the global system inside their own domain. So let's look at Egypt.eg. You can actually get a .com.eg for a business, a .edu.eg for a university, or a .org.eg for an NGO. It's like a whole national digital ecosystem, just in miniature. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, now this is where things get really, really creative. Because the TLD system isn't just a boring set of rules. It's turned into a total playground for clever branding.
and it's led to some of the most unforgettable and interesting addresses on the entire internet.
This creativity has sparked this fascinating trend where country codes are picked not for their location, but for the word they spell. This is called a domain hack. And don't worry, it's not a bad thing. It just means you're hacking together the domain name and the TLD to make a clever word or phrase.
And the examples here are just wild. The .tv domain, which is perfect for TV and streaming sites, right, is actually the country code for the tiny island nation of Tuvalu. .io, the darling of tech startups, belongs to the British Indian Ocean Territory. And with the AI boom, the .ai domain, which is the country code for the small Caribbean island of Anguilla, has absolutely exploded in value. It's this crazy mix of geography and digital gold rush.
So, the other side of this creative coin is the massive explosion of new generic TLDs. As all the good short .com names started getting snatched up, the internet's main governing body basically opened the floodgates. They proved hundreds of brand new, super descriptive endings to meet all that demand.
And this has created a whole new market. The leader of the pack, maybe surprisingly, is .xyz. It's got almost 4 million websites using it. Why? Well, probably just because it's simple, it's neutral, and it works for anything. And right behind it are other really straightforward domains like .online and .top, which have also found a huge audience. But this new wave also gave us these incredibly specific niche TLDs. Now, your web address can literally be your business card. An e-commerce site can use .shop. A graphic designer can grab a .design. A law firm can instantly signal what they do with .lawyer. It is the ultimate in direct branding. You know what the site is about before you even click the link.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all home. If you were starting a project right now, today, how in the world would you pick the right digital address? Let's walk through a super simple framework. Really, it just boils down to 4 questions. First, match your purpose. Is it a business? Think.com. A nonprofit? .org. Second, define your audience. Are you going global? Stick with .com. Focusing on Germany? Go for .de. Third, and this is a big one, build maximum trust. If the .com is available for your name, just grab it. It's the gold standard. And finally, step 4, if it's taken, get creative. A cool domain hack like .ai for your AI company or a descriptive one like .design can make your brand just as memorable.
At the end of the day, a top-level domain is so much more than just a technical thing you type. It's the very first word in your website story. It signals your purpose, your audience, and your identity before a single pixel even loads. It's the big signpost on your little corner of the internet. So take a look at your own digital address, or maybe the one you're dreaming up, and ask yourself, what story is it telling?